Today's episode is brought to you by Clarins. In 1954, Clarins was founded in France with two guiding principles: listening to women's needs and a love of nature. Today, those pillars remain at the core of Clarins, and with over 65 years of expertise, it's no wonder why the plant-based formulations, like Clarins' new Total Eye Lift, are simply unmatched. Targeting wrinkles, crow's feet, dark circles, and puffiness, Total Eye Lift is an all-in-one anti-aging eye cream that includes 94% natural ingredients and powerful natural performance. The exclusive lift smoothing duo of organic Herringana extract and cassie flower wax will give you a visible eye lift in just 60 seconds, literally. To try Total Eye Lift for yourself, head to clarinsusa.com. Welcome to Who What Wear with Hillary Kerr, your direct line to the designers, stylists, beauty experts, editors, and tastemakers who are shaping the ever-evolving world of fashion. I'm your host, Hillary Kerr, and today I'm joined by none other than singer-songwriter Natalie Imbruglia. Natalie entered the music scene back in the 90s with her hit debut single, Torn, which I loved, which sold over 4 million copies and quickly cemented Natalie as both a pop sensation and a style icon. Now, after a 10-year hiatus from music, she's returning with her 6th studio album, Firebird, which is out on September 24th. She's here to discuss how she found her way back to her truest vocation, and of course, all of those 90s and early aughts looks that will forever live on our mental mood boards. It's all coming up on Who What Wear. Natalie, welcome to the show. I'm so happy to have you here.
It's so great to see you. Thanks for having me.
So I want to talk about the fact that you're an absolute legend on so many levels and that I have been obsessed with your music legitimately since the 90s. Like, you have been a part of the fabric of my life always. So we have a ton of things to discuss, but first of all, you have a brand new album coming out in September.
Yes.
So I was hoping that you could tell our listeners a little bit about the upcoming album, what they can expect from it, what your favorite song is. I know you love them all, but tell us about it a little bit.
So Firebird is a labor of love. I've been working on this for more than 3 years. I guess what's most special about it is I had a long period of writer's block. So the creative flow that happened after that was full of so much joy and almost so much relief. And all of these things for that 5 or more years that had been building up were able to be expressed. I love telling stories. Always my music is storytelling song. First and foremost, I think over the years I discovered that my skill set above being a singer or anything else is storytelling and having an emotional thing that I've been going through, finding a way to make that land. So that's always kind of first and foremost. And this album is full of that. As far as styles go, it's very varied. And I think as a pop artist, it's something I've taken the luxury to do and have my voice tie it together. It was my first co-production, which was really exciting. But there's, from country ballads to folk songs to straight up pop. There's electronic sounds in there, but always very organic. I never like things to be too jarring or sound too artificial. And there's just so much heart in it. So it's just really exciting.
I'm so excited on so many levels because your music, to your point, is always so personal. And it's interesting because I do think there's something to the specificity. One might not think that that is universal, but I feel like, especially with your music, that it really is. It's like the more specific you are, you might think that that would be less universal, but it's quite the opposite. I feel like people really, really connect with those emotions. But let's talk about writer's block. So I've had writer's block in terms of working on a book or working on an article. That's one version of it. What is writer's block like as an artist? And then how do you get through it?
I think initially I didn't even admit to myself that that's what was happening. I'd had a really traumatic experience of spending 5 years working on a project. It was when all the record companies were folding and I kept getting inherited by new people, and everyone kept trying to change me, and the album changed 3 different times. And then finally I signed to, I think it was Island Records, and I had 3 Coldplay co-writes on this album, and then they shelved it. They dropped me. I think it was released in Australia and New Zealand only. And I was like, the universe is telling me something. I'm not supposed to be doing this. So I quit, had a bit of a breakdown. I went to Australia. I was a judge on X Factor for a year. I went to America and studied acting. And I really thought that I was done with music.
Really?
I really did. And even down to when I got signed to another record deal, the covers album, which I was made to do because I wanted to do original material. But looking back, I don't think I would have been able to write an original materials album at that point. I think I was still very much dealing with insecurity and fear and
the trauma.
Yeah, and there was a funny experience I had with a guy called Roddy Hart who came down from Scotland to write with me. We'd just become friends, and I couldn't sing a note. And I kept kind of saying, should we go for a coffee? Like, it was the most traumatizing experience. We sat in a room and too scared to open my mouth and say anything or sing anything. And I didn't try again for a long time after that because it was so terrifying. So I think it was touring that album, the Male album, that I reconnected with my fans. And I was singing cover songs. And as much as I love singing other people's music, it dawned on me that my fans really want to hear what I've got to say. And there's nothing like singing your own truth, singing your own story. And so I just thought I owe it to myself and to my fans to get over it. So baby steps. I started with Luke Fitton, Rachel Ferner and Fiona Bevan in the UK, but was still a bit scared. And then I just said to my management, because I have written in Nashville before, I actually wrote Smoke from the first album in Nashville. Under
You're
a tree.
kidding.
Yeah. With a guy called Matt Bromley. And so I said, I want you to book me at least 10 days straight, songwriting 2 sessions a day. And everything's a practice, right? It's like the book The Artist's Way. So I knew if I showed up for myself, but I had to be brave because there was going to be songs that I don't like and there was tears and everything. And then the song When You Love Too Much was about the conversation, the heart opening I'd had with the collaborator and the fact that we'd encapsulated heartbreak we'd both been through in this song in a particular tone, because most of my songs are about love, but there's so many different ways to talk about love. And the fact that we just nailed it, it's almost like therapy for me as well, because you're like, I got that one out. So that was a turning point.
So talk to me a little bit about that process. So you're saying like you have 2 sessions a day for a period of time. Are you writing with strangers? Like, what is a songwriting session like? What if nothing comes? How does that feel? Like, what is that process like?
It's terrifying.
Because it's basically like get naked with a stranger and go.
Yeah.
I mean, emotionally, but still.
And they're so pro in Nashville that you walk in, they're like, so tell me your story. And you're like, what's your name? So it's quite intimidating, but everyone's super lovely. I think I can't fault anyone that I collaborated with. It was more me. It's also learning to say, I wouldn't say that. That's not me. And so initially I was just going, yeah, sure. And making all these songs and then getting upset at the end of the day and going, oh my gosh, this is like R&B. This is so not me. Or whatever it was. But I didn't speak up. It's not their fault because I wasn't actually having a voice. It's having the confidence to guide the session in a way.
And I also think that's something that women go through in general, where we don't want to make waves. You want to give yourself over the process and just say, like, come from a place of yes, let's explore this, let's go. But then you go and you're like, but I don't like that. And it's hard then to sort of backtrack from there. How did you build your confidence back so that you could say, I need to guide this session, or great, we tried this, but I don't actually think that's working?
Writing enough bad songs. Writing enough bad songs or songs that I was like, I can't believe I spent the whole day doing that. I mean, I rapped in one of them. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? So I just got fatigue from that, and I just couldn't put myself through another day of not being in my truth. And I think we've all been there with whatever job that we do. And so that's the discipline of artistry and showing up, is that you get that confidence to go, you know what, I need to say something. I wouldn't put it that way. I wouldn't say it that way. And, any of the people that I worked with at the start of those sessions, if I went and worked with them now, it'd be a completely different experience. It was me that had the transformation. That's what brought the flow in.
Got it.
It really was what they talk about, being in flow. Because once I wrote that song, I was like, oh my gosh, I am the best. I can do this. And just to feel that way about yourself again and have that confidence was just so lovely.
It's interesting because you talk about the discipline of it, which I totally agree with you. It's like having the practice, like showing up, even if it doesn't go well, working through all of it. And then I also think there's sort of the other practices that go into it. Like I spoke with Licky Lee for my other podcast, Second Life, and she had talked about how transcendental meditation was something that helped her realize creativity is a well that she has to tap into rather than something that she has a finite amount of. I know that meditation is something that has been important to you. Does that resonate with you at all, or does meditation serve a different purpose that's not connected to work?
In so many ways, songwriting is a meditation for me. I mean, I did a lot of meditating in my early 20s. And I mean, hardcore. I used to sit in silence for hours.
Hours?
Oh, yeah. I did a week's silence once. I used to stay at an ashram in upstate New York. And so I studied Siddha Yoga, Siddha Yoga. And so I've always been a seeker, and I've always had that question, why are we here? And so I do have those tools. I don't have the intense practice that I used to. A lot of that's fallen away. And then I did Transcendental because I thought it'd be really nice to do something that's a little more stripped back. And it's everything that I'd learned, minus there wasn't as much chanting involved. But these are tools that I think everyone should use. But I find that I do this really weird thing when I songwrite. I walk around the room. It is like pulling from the ether. So when I'm doing melodies, I love a big room to songwrite so I can do my little circles. And they'll be playing chords or on the guitar and it'll be looping around. I'll be like, okay, I'll just be over here doing my circles. And I have my dictaphone and I walk around and somehow the movement is like a distraction. Because if I sit still and try, then it doesn't come. But when I move my body and I walk around the room, then these melodies come. It's so bizarre. So if I go and work with someone in a small space, I have like a mini panic attack. How am I going to do my circles?
That is so interesting. Like I never thought about the connection between movement and creativity. And it's a little bit like what you're talking about. I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but sometimes when I'm driving or in the shower and doing something else, then all of a sudden I get the idea for the thing. And I think it's because I am present, but I'm physically doing something else that's distracting. And it like opens this portal in my head. And so movement can serve that purpose for you. That's wild.
Isn't that wild? In fact, it's a very common thing in songwriting sessions that if you're getting stuck on an idea, someone goes, I'm going to go to the bathroom. I'm sure I'll come back with an idea. So they leave the room, they go to the loo, and then they're like, I've got it. I've got it. And they come back. It's just that sometimes when you're trying too hard, it's stifling because really it's about being free and not getting in the way for things to come through.
Flow state, as you're talking about, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's a great, great book called The Surrender Experiment that I think is great for that too. Michael Singer, that I encourage everyone to do the audiobook. That's what I did. And I would paradigm shift. That was a really big one for me in being in flow. And when things feel like roadblocks, dealing with that in a different way. And you can apply that to creativity, to songwriting, but just to life.
I mean, that makes sense. And it's interesting too, because I also feel like there are seasons for everything. And when something's not going well in terms of work or creativity, I sometimes will give myself a break and just say like, sometimes it's the day, sometimes it's the week, sometimes it's the month. The creativity is not always there at the same level every single day. And giving yourself some space to have other experiences, or for me to fill the well back up with other outside experiences, art or music or whatever that may be.
It's a very good point.
Because you can't create when there's nothing, I also think is part of it. And also then you can go through periods where you're super prolific and everything is coming, and then you just have to enjoy that as well. But it made me think about the fact that in researching some of your career in general and looking at some of the old interviews that you've done over the years, And with each new project, there were always a lot of questions about the amount of time that you take in between albums. But to me, taking some time to actually think about what you want to say, to live some life, that would make sense for creating really genuine work. So I'm curious, though, about how your work process has evolved over the years and how your creative expression has evolved over the years. Or is it the same process always, just in a different year?
So funny you talk about that because this is my 10th comeback. I mean, every album I've ever made is like a comeback. I'm like, really? I didn't go anywhere. I've been
Just
here
because
the
you
whole
take
time,
more than
guys.
6 months.
And, look, I'd probably live in a bigger house if I put an album out a year, but would I be as happy? I'm very much about enjoying my life. And the older I get as well, I like living simply. I don't want for things. Yes, we want freedom and money gives you freedom, but I'm not wanting things. Like things are clutter as well. So, I think more and more live in the moment. I don't aim to take 3 years. But if it takes that long,
You're respectful of the process.
yeah, the turtle wins the race, And I think the one benefit it's given me is that when I do roll around, people are like, oh, I'm about ready to hear some more of her music. You certainly can't say I oversaturate the market. It works for me, each to their own.
We'll be right back after the break. Support for this podcast comes from Clarins. Born in a spa, Clarins has over 65 years of expertise focused on natural plant-based formulas. Take, for instance, Clarins' new Total Eye Lift, a naturally powerful, all-in-one anti-aging eye cream that targets wrinkles, crow's feet, dark circles, and puffiness for a visible eye lift in 60 seconds flat. Used morning or night, you warm the product between your fingers and gently press under the eyes, over the eyelids, and onto the lashes, from inner corners of the eyes to the temples, and the sensorial, lightweight balm immediately melts into the skin. This unique method improves the product results while naturally stimulating lymphatic drainage to depuff and brighten skin. And it's suitable for all ages and skin types, including contact lens wearers and those with sensitive eyes like me. Go to ClarinsUSA.com to shop and to learn more about Clarins' new Total Eye Lift. That's ClarinsUSA.com.
But it was interesting what you were saying before about sometimes it's there and sometimes it's not. Another confidence in creativity and songwriting is that when I wrote with Romeo Stoddard of the Magic Numbers, I remember I'd had the baby, so I hadn't written with him for a big chunk, and we got back in the studio and I was like, I'm not feeling it today. And I was having this panic. He was here in this very room in the barn in my house. I said, I'm not feeling it. I'm feeling really stifled and it's not connecting. And he's so chill. And he's like, hey, Nat, don't worry. We can just chat today. We don't have to write. So we spent the day chatting and we went for dinner. We came back. We tried again. And I was like, you know what? I've got to go to bed. The next day I got up and did my vocal warm-up and was like, it's going to be a different day today. And it just flowed. And I guess you learn over the years that that's okay. Every day is not going to be the day where it's flowing through you like that, and it's okay. And it all leads to that great song.
But it can be scary, like when you're not confident in your abilities, to like wake up one morning and feel like I don't have it anymore, or like it's gone. I've been deserted. And then I think that's how people feel when they're first starting out. But then as time goes on, you realize it comes and goes. And that could be over a day or a week or a month or a year. But if it's there, I think it always comes back on some level.
I don't think I could ever go through writer's block in the same way because of the lesson I've learned this time around. I don't think I could stay in that place for as long, which is great.
But that's a journey that you have to go through to understand it.
Yeah.
So can we talk about some of your amazing artistic collaborators on Firebird and how you met everyone and how you ended up working together and how you choose collaborators?
Absolutely. I worked with so many incredible artists on this album, songwriters and artists in their own right. So who do I start with? I guess we have Katie Tunstall, who I'm a massive fan of.
Huge.
She actually is the reason I co-produced with My Riot, because I was talking to her about different options of producers. And she's like, you got to work with My Right. They're brilliant. They just did this work with me. And so that's Tim and Roy. And Tim, I actually used to hang out with when I first moved to London in the Portobello days, like Notting Hill vibes.
Mm-hmm.
So there was this history there and this familiarity. And we took some meetings. But Katie was fantastic when she came to work with me. I think it's very easy for an artist to dominate a session because they're used to writing for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very lucky that the people that I worked with were able to help write my story. So, for example, Nothing Missing, which is the song I wrote with Katie, I was like obsessed with writing this song to explain this feeling I had that I spent 10 years after my divorce trying to fix myself. And, you know, I suddenly realized, and this was before I had my son, that nothing was missing. And it was an incredible epiphany. Like,
That's
wow.
huge.
And she's like, well, that's the title and we're writing it. And she just got inside my head and helped me express myself. So I'm very grateful. So there was her and there was Romeo. I was a big Magic Numbers fan.
Mm-hmm.
Albert Hammond Jr.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. So obviously I've been a massive Strokes fan for a very long time, and I'd known Albert as a friend. And I remember back in the day him saying, you know, we should write together. And I was like, oh, yeah. But I was too scared. And so after I got over my writer's block, I had the courage to actually reach out to him. And he said yes. So we ended up working together with his engineer producer, Gus. And they came to Byron Bay while I was in Australia. And we were in the middle of the hinterland with this, my friend's studio, Rocking Horse Studio. I got the whole studio for us, and we just had so much fun. He's so talented. And his guitar playing, he's just got his own flavor, and he just makes it fun and exciting. And I think this song turned out great.
So speaking of which song on the album was the most fun to write?
They were all obviously my stories, but I would say the most special one would be Firebird, the title track. It was written last. It's really bizarre. The album was called something else. And I was working with Simon Proctor, who did the artwork on the album, who's just a genius. And I'd sent the album to him, and I was talking about how a lot of this is about Phoenix out of the ashes. And he used the word Firebird, and I was like, oh my God, I'm a Firebird. And I was like, that's exactly what it is. And Firebird to me is like finding strength in fragility. And I was like, we have to write this song. This song has to exist. And I spoke to my managers and my label, and they're like, well, it's too late. It's too late. And I'm like, it's, no, we have to write a song. So I called Romeo and I said, no pressure. Can you come to the house? We need to write a song in 24 hours. It's Firebird. It's the title track. You don't understand. We have to do it. It's got to exist. Like, I have this vision. So he came to the house, and that was the day where I was like, it's not coming. I can't. And he just totally calmed me down, chilled me out, and we made a start. And it was going to be about all of these different things. Like, I was imagining singing to my son and, you know, things I wanted to say to him. And then the second day when we started writing, I actually lost a very dear friend to cancer. She had 2 stage 4 cancers, and it was her funeral. And none of us could be there because of COVID and everything. And I lit a candle, and she was this powerhouse of a girl. She was a Firebird, right? And so I lit this candle and I asked her to help me write the song. It just flowed out of me. It's like she hijacked the song, but in the most beautiful way. So I've never really experienced that where it was just literally every melody, every word. So I'd say Firebird.
That's wild. So of all of the songs, which one is the most enjoyable to play?
I haven't played them live yet, but I would say Nothing Missing, On My Way is going to be fun. Just Like Old Times and Change of Heart.
What makes a song fun for you to perform?
That's a really good question. It can be different things. I mean, I think of Change of Heart, and there can be the silliest little thing. Like, I feel like that song makes me feel like I'm on a train, and I just can imagine. It's the 2 piano notes at the start of the song, and there's this kind of tension. So it can be the arrangements. It can be all kinds of things. I don't know. Sometimes it's ones that make me want to dance, ones that I lose myself in. It can be a ballad. It can be for any reason. But to be honest, there's not many songs on this album I don't want to sing live. So the band's really excited.
That is a good sign.
Yeah.
What song are you most proud of, do you think? Is it Firebird?
Probably. I think writing under that kind of pressure
Yeah.
is a pretty amazing achievement. But honestly, once I got back from Nashville, it was just so easeful. And it's interesting because I've worked as hard. You know, you talked about sometimes it's just not the right time as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's sometimes grace meets effort, and that's where the magic happens. And it's not all the time.
Yeah, because you can do all of the work and there's just something not there. But when those moments happen, it's just like beyond your control and you are just along for the ride. But the reason you can do all of it is because you have the prep, right?
Yeah.
Like you have the foundation.
Also, I think that there is also a gift to be found in those hard times, and you can't see it at the time, but patience pays off, because I couldn't have created Firebird all those years ago. You know, it's the fabric of my life and the things that I've been through in that period of time that I had writer's block that's in those songs. So you just have to be patient, I think.
So difficult. Okay,
Yeah.
so can we talk about your music videos, both for this project and over the years? Because
Yes.
you have been and remain a full-on style icon. And I just love the way that you present yourself visually and create visually. So do you have a favorite video from Firebird?
Do you know what? That's such a compliment coming from you, because I so don't think of myself as a style
Are
icon.
you serious? Everyone knows
God,
that.
no.
I'm just stating a fact.
I don't really follow fashion or anything. I so do my own thing.
I know, that's
I'm
why.
pretty clueless.
I don't think you're clueless. It feels very authentic from you.
Yeah.
Like it just feels
Okay.
like you're doing what you want to do. And that is literally the coolest thing ever.
Well, I've only made 2 videos, and one hasn't even been out yet. So the one that everybody's seen, which was the first video for Build It Better, was so much fun to work on. But you know what I'm wearing in the video?
Tell me.
This was my whole concept for this video. I worked with a great director called Amy Becker Burnett. And I said to her, my reference was like the Bjork It's Oh So Quiet video. I was like, I want to dance in it. I want it to be in a mundane environment. And I want us to bring this old Hollywood pastel world into it, especially because of the pandemic and what everyone's been through. I just want pure escapist fun. I want that childlike joy.
Yeah.
But the outfit, I was practicing the dance with a chill skirt from my fancy dress box, and it was pink. And I was like, I kind of just want to wear a skirt like this. Can we just so I got Steve Bell, my tailor from Portobello Arcade, super cool dude. I gave him my fancy dress up box chill skirt and said, do you think you could make this? And so he made it. And then we were trying to find something to put on the top, and everything we used was putting it into like a 50s style. I'm like, this doesn't feel right. I was like, get me some vintage t-shirts in red. And then, of course, I wanted it to look nice, so I took it in. I mean, it was literally that. But I was wearing really cool Fendi boots.
Oh, God, I love that. It's really personal and it's really authentic. And I think that's, again, what people really respond to. So I also feel like you've had a lot of conversations about your hair over the years. I mean, because you have great hair, anytime you change it, people are like very interested. Is it just the media? Is it people like me who have just overanalyzed it? Do you think about it? Is it premeditated, like growing it out, cutting it? Like, how does that play into things for you?
I don't think about it at all.
Ever?
No, not really. I mean, I did get her to lighten some bits in my hair last time I went to the hairdressers because I wanted some more contrast. But I might have a thought like that once every 5 years, maybe, if that. The biggest pain is having to do my grey roots every 2 weeks. But no, I really, to be honest, the short haircut that everyone raved about was me just wanting to be Helena Christensen. I think I took a magazine in with a picture of her where she probably had a wig on, but she had this short haircut, and I had my face cut out into hers.
Yes.
And I was like, I want to be her. So, you know, we're all doing this. Everyone was doing that with my haircut, but I was doing it to Helena Christensen, so.
I love that. That's the origin story. So also going back, for anyone who doesn't understand like the full magnitude of your debut single, Torn, it was such a massive hit that there are barely words to describe it. I mean, it sold 4 million copies alone, became the most played song of, I feel like the entire 90s, certainly in my house, that was true. The music video was everywhere. That sweatshirt and khaki look is one that we will never forget. So I'm curious about Was seeing your style influencing others part of the way that you understood the magnitude of your success? Like when you would play a show and every girl had your haircut or was wearing some version of something you had done in a video, like did you understand how influential you were in that moment?
I mean, I just want to give her a big hug. I was like a rabbit in the headlights. I was so freaked out about what was happening because I really was not expecting that. I would say the turning point was being in Times Square and my face was all up. I mean, for a little Aussie girl from a very small town, it was just next level. So my album cover was just everywhere and I was pinching myself. But what's hysterical is that I'm wearing my own clothes. I've had dysmorphia since I can't remember. And I remember sitting in this meeting at BMG and they had all of these books of fancy stylists. And they're like, who do you want to work with? And I just remember going in my head, oh, they're going to make me try and wear a dress. They're going to make me try and wear a dress. And I was like, do you think I could maybe wear my own clothes? And they just said yes, like I knew something they didn't. And that was the end of that. Because, see, the baggy pants didn't show the outline of my body. So it was all to cover up. I mean, they weren't even a cool brand. I don't even know what they were. And I had those Buffalo platform trainers. It was a look. I mean, the Maharashi jacket was cool. But I think the other one was just a market T-shirt. The T-shirt was just like Portobello Market. It worked. I don't know. I guess it's cozy, comfy, a bit androgyny, which I didn't realize at the time. I wasn't trying to be as tomboy as I looked. But yeah, it did start a thing. I mean, it's quite random.
It really resonated in a huge way. And again, like you don't think of yourself as being a style icon, but like literally you in your own clothes that you put together yourself, like started this moment. I mean, that's like, if you look back on that, like that's crazy. And also should be very empowering because you weren't created. It was just you.
It's just me as me. Well, maybe that was unusual because most people use the stylist and I was just like, can I just wear my own clothes? But I have to give props to Alison McLean, the director of the Torn video, and Seamus McGarvey, who went on to be one of the biggest DOPs in Hollywood. So, I mean, the team was spectacular. I don't know how I got to work with them, but I remember choosing a film director because I was a frustrated actress and I wanted to, I mean, like we cast the guy in the video. You don't do that these days. We like spent a whole day casting people and it was like our movie. And so I think that she really brought that to life and that feeded into everybody buying into this character that was me.
I love that. So do you have a favorite look that you've worn, whether it's red carpet or performance or music video over the years, like anytime that you look back and you're like, wow, I really loved how that all came together?
I loved the mirror jacket that I wore to the Grammys.
Amazing.
I thought that was such a strong look. And Jimmo Sulaco had just cut my hair into that pixie cut, and I thought that was fresh. So that's one of my favorites. And I quite liked the red dress I wore to the Johnny English premiere. It was like a strapless red dress. So that's another favorite red carpet. And, you know, my years working with L'Oreal and doing the Cannes red carpets was pretty up there. I got to wear some pretty beautiful dresses.
I feel like that's like one of the most magical red carpets in the whole world because of the stairs and the light and everything about it. It's just such a scene.
It's very intimidating.
Yeah.
It's quite full on because you're doing the red carpet, but they're showing you inside in the theater on the screen as well. So it's exciting though.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
So as I'm sure you're aware, and something that I have discussed in a recent episode of this podcast, when it comes to fall trends, the 90s and very specifically the early aughts are back in a huge way, like colored lens sunglasses, super low-rise jeans, oversized fits, platform shoes, halter tank tops, newsboy hats, which, I mean, I just can't even believe that's a thing again. How do you feel about that resurgence? Is there anything that you enjoy from that era that you will be incorporating into your personal style?
I've definitely been doing the boyfriend jean thing. I recently did a shop, which doesn't happen very often, but because I'm in a campaign, I was like, oh, I get to shop. So I had bought a lot of baggy, I think Sandro, French Connection, and Zara boyfriend jeans.
Love it.
All of which I have to alter. I'm really a frustrated tailor. So everything I have is altered. Like my denim jackets are taken in. I'm quite short, so I want the arms to look longer. I'm tweaking all the time. But definitely the baggy jeans are back in, and blazers. I've bought a bunch of blazers recently.
Excellent. I can't wait for it to get a little cooler now, too. I'm ready for some fall clothes.
Absolutely.
Do you have any pieces of clothing in your wardrobe that you haven't touched for a while that you want to bring back into rotation, or anything that you just really, really love that's feeling appropriate for now?
I've been living in dungarees.
I feel like that's a thing that all of us are going through.
I'm like silver Birkenstocks, black dungies. I have them on right now under this cool little sweater I just bought in Mykonos. Comfort. I've always been someone that goes for comfort over fashion. Like the fabric has to feel good on my body.
Absolutely. So any favorite fashion brands or trends or things that you are really obsessed with for fall? Anything that you are just loving right now?
I've got these Prada chunky heel
Ugh.
boots. They look like a Timberland with a heel, and they have a yellow lace. Obsessed. That's my favorite recent purchase.
Mm-hmm.
I quite like chic, but simple, understated, but really good tailoring. So Helmut Lang. I always, when I'm shopping online, love a dress, and it'll be Isabel Marant. Like I just seem to be drawn to her clothes. She's recently changed style a bit, I think more before the bright colors, but definitely she's a favorite. Stella McCartney and Yoji, probably.
So chic. Well, Natalie, thank you so much for your time. Congratulations on the album and life in general. It's been such a pleasure.
Well, thank you for asking me.
A huge thank you to singer-songwriter and my own personal style icon, Natalie Imbruglia. Make sure to subscribe to our show wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss an episode. And while you're there, I would be so grateful if you would rate and review us. If you have any guest suggestions or any other feedback, drop us a line at podcast@whowhatwear.com, or you can find us on social @whowhatwear. See you next Wednesday on Who What Wear with Hillary Kerr. This episode was produced by Hillary Kerr and Olivia Capoletti. Editing is by Natalie Thurman and Treehouse Recording in Los Angeles, California. Our music is by Jonathan Leahy. Thank you to Clarins Total Eye Lift for sponsoring today's episode. Clarins is committed to protecting the earth and helping children and local communities through partnerships with organizations such as FEED. By the end of 2021, they will have provided more than 36 million school meals to children around the world. This year, they're proud to be celebrating their 10-year partnership together and, in honor of their anniversary, invite you to join in on their social challenge beginning September 24th. Post a throwback photo of when you were in school to Instagram and make sure to tag @ClarinsUSA, @Feed, and include the hashtag ClarinsXFeed. You can also find instructions in the show notes of this episode. For each photo posted, Clarins will donate 10 school meals to a child in need. Help Clarins reach their 100,000 meal goal by October 10th. Learn more about Clarins' commitment to responsible beauty and shop their incredible products at clarinsusa.com.